marketing. Thank you for being so generous with your time. Let's get into a five-step guide to creating and distributing great fund marketing content. So here we go. So I suppose the first question to ask is, what are we? What am I? What do I do? If you're joining late, that's fine. You've been spared. I started ProFundcom 20 years ago, and basically the premise of what I was trying to do after working in fund marketing is to build a digital platform that helps managers identify new investment, pick out any kind of redemptions that may be happening based on people's digital behavior. That's what the product does. That's what we spent the last 20 years building. We have a whole bunch of wealth managers, hedge funds, asset managers, investment managers that work with us. And we integrate to the most popular CRMs that are out there in the space we work in, which is in the fund space. So what did I do during lockdown? 20 years worth of experience, I put into a book. And if you guys want a copy of the book, message me at the end of the webinar or send me an email and we'll get a copy out to you. We are now at the stage where the book is going to have a second edition. So post-lockdown, there's a lot of stuff that's happened around COVID that I called it marketing to the invisible investor, because in digital marketing, you really don't know who you're marketing to unless they actually leave some kind of details behind. But post-COVID, as we know, the world has changed. And I've added a second section to the book as well to kind of build on what me and 200 of our clients have learned over this period. So I can send you the first copy, or if you wait till the middle of the year, the second edition will be out. But it crystallizes kind of the 12 steps a digital marketer in finance needs to be at least considering. So yeah, so we're all on our way we're all living in a post-COVID world. I don't know where you are in the world right now, but I hope you're safe and well and the virus isn't spreading as it did. But what's been interesting is that post-COVID, and we've run this research, is that people are consuming their digital content in a way that is slightly counterintuitive. People are kind of getting sick of Zoom. 63% of people seem to be still interested in webinars. And by the fact of the number that have joined today, 63% seems about okay. People are still engaged with websites. But what I suppose the crazy thing that I thought was I thought this was crazy, was that 92% of people surveyed, and it's not by a digital marketing company like us, just by Securi, they basically said, investors prefer to get 92% of their information by email. So that was pretty interesting. And what was also pretty interesting, hold on a second, I've just overclicked. Here we go. And what was really interesting was the content that they wanted was more about product strategy, product updates, investment approaches, marketing perspective, and really less about general information. And you'd kind of expect that. But what I thought was quite revealing was the fact that people wanted this information as it was being produced. And that I think was a revelation to me, because obviously analytics give you one sense, but if our premise has always been on a regular time, in a regular part of the week, in a regular part of the month, send out a mailing. If you're doing transactional valuation statements, send them out once a day, if that's what you do. But sending information as needed was a complete revelation to me. And it was shocking. And it was so counter to everything that I had spent 20 years kind of, well, I suppose telling people, I was wrong. And, that doesn't mean you don't buy the book. Just remove that from the chat, that part from the chapters. but it kind of tells you is that, yeah, sometimes you just got to ask people. So that is kind of where I found the transformation to have occurred, is that whilst Zoom will tell you, oh, it's all about Zoom, and webinar companies will be saying it's all about webinars, and Microsoft will be selling you, you know, the biggest, better collaboration tool with Slack and Jira and all these kind of products. It turns out in our world, in the world of fund marketing, it's as needed email communication around products and strategy updates. I mean, if you just took that away from this webinar, you're winning. So that was a change that we found. And as you'd kind of probably, and as you'd probably seen from my previous misclick, was that the investor journey has become completely digital. And that was kind of the inspiration behind the book. And what was really quite key is that now I don't know, who's actually on this call has actually been to an event where they're investors. Few, I'm assuming. And it's nice to travel, I get that. But the point where we were meeting people has all changed. And now the investor is engaging with funds through thought leadership, through website, through social, through online, offline events, through the press, through inbound and outbound marketing. And those are all the touch points that the marketing team have to be focusing on before they even get to the point where a fund is being considered. Now, what does that mean for the marketing team? Well, actually, if you think about the traditional funnel, the marketing team was at the top of the funnel getting leads in, and it was the sales team that were, the superstars who were converting them. Well, actually, I don't think that's the case anymore. I think marketing, it actually runs in parallel with the sales process. And I'm not saying for 1 minute that someone is going to invest in your fund just because your marketing is so brilliant, but more on the basis is you're just working in tandem with the sales team. So what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to talk about creating a great content plan, about how do you produce your blogs and white papers and what does it all take, hacks, because I know all of us are doing 5 different things at one time, in one go, as a marketer, how the best ways to share content, and ultimately to keep the people who are being very busy, doing busy things like, managing the company's money and saying no to marketers. How do you convince them with analytics? Okay, so that is the gem. How do you convince more to get more marketing budget? And if you were to ever ask, me, where people find our product the most compelling, it's ways to get more marketing budget. And that's not because our product costs that much, so much. It's because you can actually work out what's working and what's not working. So there we go. Content plan. This is a sample content plan that I have done for one of our clients. It's nothing sophisticated. All it takes is to basically have pig-headed discipline. So you basically set out the channels that you want to send out your information on, set it out in different weeks, set out the activities, put it in a spreadsheet, and then tick off when different parts are done. I've been doing marketing for long enough now, and I have tried every single tool that is out there because I hate Excel, and I have tried and I have failed. And what's really interesting is the fact that when I show this slide or the Excel spreadsheet, and if you email me, I can send this to you as well, is what you find is like, oh, no, this is too simple. This is too simple. And because we're so used to complexity in our lives, having something like a simple spreadsheet is like, I wouldn't say counterintuitive, but it's like, it's almost beneath us, right? I don't know. And this is pretty much where customers of ours who have embraced this have said, come back to me and said, you know what, this actually works. And the beauty now is if you're using something like Google Docs or OneDrive, you can just share this internally and you can actually see how this gets filled. And I know, again, this is like super simple. And I know you probably guys are thinking, wow, is this it? I was hoping for some great insight. I was hoping Paul would come down from the mountain with 10 tablets and, with, some kind of proclamation. Well, no. And, there's that saying, right? Is like, do you eat your own dog food? And we do. So this, I don't know if you've seen the transition in my animation. This is our own spreadsheet that we use internally. And we cover what we do on the first week, what we do on the second week, what we do on the third week. It covers all our postings on LinkedIn, on Twitter. It then covers everything we do around our webinars. It covers what we do with our clients and all our quarterly updates as well. And that's really where this came from. It came from clients really struggling with having the discipline to produce newsletters, the discipline to produce thought leadership pieces. I mean, how many times do I get an email saying, oh, welcome to the launch of our newsletter on blah. And 4 months later, it's like, oh yeah, where did that one go? Yeah, it's pig-headed discipline, but it comes with underpinning it with something as simple as a spreadsheet. So that's kind of the first part. So I haven't really talked about, this slide is in the wrong place, by the way. Anyhow, so what do you then do? So once you've kind of got this content, how do you go about distributing it? Well, the 4 areas where our clients have found success in distributing content is in email campaigns. As I showed you, that slide was actually in the wrong place, as in 90% plus people prefer email campaigns, but you can't avoid the mix of social media, being in the press, and running webinars. And I say webinars, I kind of mean online events until we kind of transition to events. And that is really, really important. So once you've got these 4 pillars in place, the key, the absolute key, is for the information for your press releases, for your webinars, for your social, for your email campaigns, the content ultimately living on your website. And the reason for this is, one, is that it's easy to control, but the real trick is when you have the ability to actually take that website data, that website analytic data, and overlay it with CRM, you overlay it with automations, you overlay it with reporting, and you overlay it with lead scoring. And I'll come to all of those in a minute. The challenge that I have seen is that people have their website analytics, they then have their webinar analytics, they then have their press analytics, they have them all sitting in different places. And to bring them together in one place is almost impossible. So 2 things happen. One is you just get frustrated and give up because you can't pull the analytics out that you want. But worse, and this comes to budget again, there is no way to actively demonstrate the effectiveness or the impact you as a marketer are having on the asset raising process, because your data is so disparate. The minute you have your content data and analytic data sitting in your website from these multiple channels, with the CRM, the salespeople can access it. With the automations, you can start to build kind of clever little snippets of code that allow you to start to ping people based on events that you're running, content that you're sending out. You can actually start to build some quite clever workflows, and I'll get into that as well. You can build reports, and you can also build the concept of lead scoring, which effectively tells your salespeople, you know what, guys, here are 10 people you need to speak to today. But this only happens when your website is the Oracle. And that's, yeah, I know, you see what I did there, but I'm not endorsing Oracle. It becomes the Oracle of all things content about your business. So once you've kind of worked that out, and this is something, when people talk about rebrand and baloney like that, what they really need to be thinking out is no matter what you do in your rebrand, when you build this great website because it looks so great, it needs to be underpinned by this strong analytic core. Okay, so that's that. Now, the reason behind this, the reason behind distributing your content, analyzing it, is so that you have an investor-centric view of all your contacts. And this really is a simpler and smart way to win in your CRM, to know exactly what people are doing. You know what they understand to be success. You understand what their interests are. You understand, what other things you could cross-sell them with. And cross-selling, especially if you're a multi-fund manager, is incredibly useful to an existing investor. And our clients who work in private equity absolutely love this feature, where if somebody is interested in a particular fundraise, they'll be interested in another fundraise that's very similar. So having that investor centricity absolutely is underpinned by great marketing content, distributed in the right way and aggregated in the right way. And that, again, is really tied in to your website. So that's creating a content plan. Creating a content plan is less about, generating the content, but it's more about scheduling that content and then how you distribute them. So I hope that part was helpful. The next thing we're going to look at is what do you put in, what content you generate. And the content that, we find is effective is obviously webinars. We've done that to death, so I'll leave that out for now. But basically putting content out there that covers your market commentary on how you see the market is going, your thought leadership around particular themes, and also talking about your investment strategy. Those are, I actually didn't have a nice looking pyramid, so I went with a jigsaw. But, it's the ability to actually, in a non-solicitation way, and that's really important in our industry, that we aren't seeing to solicit investment, that, you can create content around, the way you see the world and the marketplace. And that is, again, when we looked at that slide that I put in the wrong place, what people are interested in. That's what people are interested in. So creating that content on a regular basis, using that spreadsheet, whether it's whether you create it weekly, which is a challenge, monthly or quarterly, is incredibly useful. So tying those together is a good plan. The next thing is what you do with this content once you've created it. The key is not just to say, right, we're going to stick it on our website and be done with it. It's about creating content that you can publish in video, and, go on YouTube and see how to create a good looking video. It's actually pretty simple. And if you can then learn to edit a video, which again, you can go on YouTube and do that as well, or a website like Fiverr or Upworks, you can hire people on a gig basis, record your portfolio manager, record somebody who's interesting in your business, and make that content available. What you can then do is you can have long form content and short form content. And that is really useful as well, because long form content appeals to a certain type of reader and short form content to another. So it's almost as if you're covering everyone's consumption of information. And that's something that we found, is that nobody really reads copy anymore. Because obviously in the old world, if you remember Mad Men or anything from that era, long form copy was the way that journalists used to do things, because it's difficult to write, it's difficult to understand. So, if it's difficult to write, it's difficult to understand, we'll make it long, and that's fine. But we don't consume information like that. We consume information through short form video and short form text. We don't read anymore, we scan. So on that basis, it may be a complex subject that your portfolio manager is putting out there, but it's almost us as marketeers, a job for us to kind of condense that in a way that can be consumed. And obviously, once you've created that, by all means, distribute it and then analyze it. So hopefully by now, you're kind of at that point where you kind of see how content, the form of the content, the distribution of the content, and the analytics all come together. And I hope you do, because it took me ages to work this slide out. So thank you very much. And normally on my YouTube video, I'd say, please subscribe or smash the like, but that's not for now. So moving on, once you've done that in the multi-format world, you can actually see how this all ties in back to this spreadsheet. And marketing, especially if you're doing multi-channel marketing, is one where you almost become a production company. And that's how you've kind of got to look at this. And I don't know if anyone, I'm sure many marketers here have come from a kind of theatre background, or I definitely know already the people on this call, I know 2 clients of ours on this call who are from the theatre background or from a production operational background. Marketing, marketing the way I'm describing is very much a production affair. So with lots of levers to be pulled and lots of processes to be managed. So this is what I ultimately do. So this is my whiteboard at home, or my home office, which I should say my office, but this is it. It's literally everything I show, all my marketing activity on the left-hand side, all being fed into the website, and then from there being squirted out into the CRM, tying in with our automation. So this is, this is not me in an ivory tower, pointing my finger at all you poor marketers out there saying, here is the way to do it, and but no, it's not that at all. It is down to Excel and a whiteboard. So sorry if you've got shares in Jira. So when you're creating content, now we come up to the thing I think marketers really enjoy. What kind of content we should be creating? And obviously every brand has a voice. And I always go back to David Attenborough, I always call him Richard, and about the voice of his content. And the voice of his content is always educational, really entertaining and enlightening. And the reason, I've written an article recently about David Attenborough's marketing style. It really is taking really serious, really complicated issues and just making them digestible. And he's giving us pretty tough news to digest. But because his voice, and I don't mean his actual physical voice, but actually the voice he uses, the tone he uses, is incredibly critical in delivering information. And that really is I'm searching for the word, is the absolute underpinnings of all the marketing you put out there. It's one of those things, it's just because somebody else has, written an article in your organization, the voice needs to stay the same. So that is, again, a really big part of creating great marketing content, is getting the voice right and deciding among yourselves, is it something to educate, entertain, or enlighten, or something else? It doesn't matter if it's something else, it just needs to be something. So in our organization, at ProFundcom, our tone is to always be thought leaders in what we're doing. And our tone is slightly informal and slightly, I wouldn't say jocular, but just there is just a tone that, look, you guys are on this call, right? This is our tone, and it's genuine. And that there's a whole thing about being genuine in your communication, and people connect with that. So voice is something that, is something that sounds simple in an organization, but is actually pretty hard to pull off. So getting that right is really important for content. And look, I know Ray Dalio says lots of things, but this is one thing he says: when you're marketing fund content, talk about your investment strategy, talk about your attitude to risk, and lastly, talk about your performance. Now, I do get a lot of pushback from people who are communicating with allocators who are always talking about performance, performance, performance. And as a result, these kind of people we talk to probably aren't clients of ours because they don't value marketing. And fundamentally, if all you want to do is talk about performance, you'll see those companies who always spoke about performance, how absolutely awful their marketing is and their brand is. It's absolutely dire. Because when the fund is performing, guess what's also performing? The brand. But when the fund isn't performing, the brand is going through the floor because they haven't invested in it. They haven't invested in the voice. They haven't invested in the processes. They haven't invested in all these things we spoke about. So performance is important, but we recently spoke to the guys, and I can quote them at Lord Abbott and TCA, and they said, all things being equal, marketing is what we believe brings us the most inflows. And that's a big statement. That's a big, big statement. So, and then again, you ask them about their marketing budget and they kind of think, well, marketing is not core to what we do. So my hope is that by the time I retire, marketing is seen as core to what a fund does. And I don't know when I'll retire, but I don't know when I'm going to retire. Could be forever. So there we go. So that's all about what the best way to create blogs and white papers and content like that. So thirdly, hacks. Okay. So this will be pretty quick because these are hacks and I'm not going to explain them. Just do them. Okay. So hacks. When people ask me, Paul, what is the most efficient marketing channel that's out there for me? I've just invested on this new website. I've put SEO stuff in. I'm paying for ads. I'm like, you're being a moron, guys. You're being a moron. It's hard and slow to do SEO and ads. Don't do them, okay? Don't do paid ads. The most effective, and this is what this slide's about, is about targeting existing investors, networking, social direct messaging, social posts, and being on platforms, and encompassing that with an email campaign. That works. And the number of people who have come back to me saying, you know what, Paul, if I had taken all my ad money that I spent to Google with all the phantom clicks, all the SEO that's taken me a whole period of time to implement, and just implemented it on the kind of the gray area I've shown, maybe I shouldn't use the word gray, it would have made a difference. And it does. So to most people I say, focus on your existing investors, focus on your network, branch out to social direct messaging, and then social posting, and then to platforms, and the rest will follow. So that's one hack. The second hack is to write copy once and then use it multiple times. So if you remember previously, I had a slide where I was talking about webinars, short form, long form, video. Well, guess what's going to happen to this webinar that I'm running right now? It'll be recorded. It will be sent to Martin, who lives out in Oxford. He will create a white paper. From that white paper, we'll distribute that to our clients. We will then, from that, generate 4 articles for our website. Those 4 articles will then be, if you remember my spreadsheet, will be distributed on LinkedIn and on Twitter. There you go. So from this hour that I'm spending with you lovely people, we're going to generate a barrel load of content. Again, just do it. And again, if you don't have a Martin in your world, then, finding somebody who's a good copywriter on Upwork or Fiverr, exceptionally useful. The other thing to do is nurture campaigns. Nurture campaigns is that automation I spoke about, where if people leave their details on your website, or they've been to a webinar, or they've engaged with you digitally, where they've left some information behind, is to build a nurture campaign where you can actually send them every couple of weeks some curated content that you have produced. Another automation that's really, and this is like, if you're running events, an absolute no-brainer is you build an automation to give you the ability to remail people who are attending, who have said, if you're running an event, remail people who are not opening your emails for that event. Those who opened the email but did not register, send them another email. If those that went to the registration page but didn't register, send them another email. I mean, this automation, we ran it for this event, and we started with 100 people. We ran the automation, got to 210, ran it again, got to almost 300. Remailing for events, for investor calls, absolutely works. Lead scoring, I spoke about this earlier on as well. Great hack to have in place. If your CRM provides lead scoring, make sure it's enabled. Make sure your digital data is being pulled into that. Make it available to your sales team. And this is so useful when it's a quiet day and a salesperson's got nothing much to do, just going into the CRM and being able to pull out, people who are scoring well with digital content and giving them a call, absolute gold. And again, I'm saying this because this is the feedback we get from our clients, and we have this built in our product. And when people come to us and say, "Oh, you know what, we're thinking of canceling," I kind of, obviously my heart breaks, and I'm in tears and I'm inconsolable. But they'll turn around and say, the reason we can't cancel, they use the word can't, is because the sales team love this part of the product. And I'm saying, thank goodness for that. So this is a great thing to have, and is a really great way to getting the sales team and marketing team really working tightly together. Okay, so that's the hacks, right? Sharing, and I'm aware of the time, so sharing, I mean, look, email is a no-brainer, and this slide is actually in the right place, okay? So email is the way to go. So I spoke about this webinar, and what I've done for your delectation is I've actually printed out where we generated most of our leads from, okay? And email was the highest. LinkedIn Helper, that's direct messaging that we do. We got, if you look at 171 people landed there, 51 registered, that's pretty good. And that almost kind of gives me the confidence to say that on that slide I had, where, social direct messaging absolutely works. We've worked with hedge fund marketing, HFM, and we've generated a bunch of leads from them. But what was quite interesting, guys, was the social proof email we sent out. And what that was, it was the email that said, so many other marketers have also registered for this. And that was quite an interesting change in tactic. And social proof, you can Google marketing social proof, is where we buy things, one, to signal how amazing we are, but we buy things just because other people have bought it. And there is a whole marketing science behind that, based on choice architecture. But that is social proof. And to me, the managers that are slowly building social proof into what they're doing, as in, this manager bought our fund, you should too, or in Amazon's terms, Paul Das, you bought this shredder, other people also bought the lubricating oil, the lubricating sheets. It's like, oh yeah, I must have that. And engineering, and this is kind of hacking the subconscious, is how do you create messages that build subjective value in your fund, and is also hacking the unconscious. And that, hacking the unconscious, is the gift that marketers have to give to the brainiacs who are in accounting, in economics, in mathematics, because these guys just don't get it. That's why they call it data science, because they don't understand magic. Okay, so that's content distribution. So once you've done, sorry, that's sharing. So ultimately, like I said, it is sharing content, sharing content to your existing investors and direct messaging. I mean, that is the number one way to do it. Okay, so what does this look like? You know, how do you know what's working? How do you report on this? So what I've got here is what it should all look like. And because we are doing, I'm doing this live, by the way. So this, what you're looking at right now, is a live connection into our system, which gives us the ability to see how our marketing is performing in real time. So what you'll be able to see here is, you know, the trends of our marketing. You'll be able to see also what funds are performing. So if we run, you know, some kind of, we tag our content based on funds, and we can see that, ESG is working well. You can then drill down into that further. You can drill down into by what channel has been accessing the content. You can then drill down further into, say, by what country are people engaging with us, and which country have found which campaigns more effective. So you can say, click on Switzerland, and you'll see, okay, here are the people in Switzerland and the campaigns running in Switzerland that people found more effective. And what this is doing, it's pulling in all our channel activity all into one place and presenting it in a way that is digestible to marketers, as well as salespeople, as well as, more importantly, answering that question, marketing team, how are we doing? And that is a question that terrifies, I bet that terrifies everybody on this call. If somebody was to just walk in the office and say, hey, how's marketing going? And having this real-time view of the data is what our platform does. Other platforms are available. Again, once you've got all your content created, the way to create great content is not about, is it great, does it read well, but does it give you the ability to say, who are the people we should be contacting based on their engagement on the digital content we've produced? And this, again, is lead scoring and drilling down further into, say, this contact Yvette. You can see Yvette, and this is all fake data, by the way. Yvette has engaged on LinkedIn. She's downloaded a fact sheet. She's been on Twitter. Fantastic. So already we've got a sense of what she's interested in. That question again, how are we performing across multiple channels? It's the ability to then see how your emails are performing, how your socials performing, how your website's performing, and just having that 30,000-foot view on how that content is performing. Having this available, again, in real time is incredibly useful. And it's incredibly useful not because it's actually telling the sales team anything, not that it's telling the marketing team what's working and what's not, but it's actually giving you the ability to benchmark very, very quickly, month on month, how you're performing, which is, again, a question that marketers have really struggled to answer. Doesn't matter whether you're in the fund market or not. That so happens to be the world we live in, but generally across any channel, any industry. Now, this is where it gets serious, because what we can't say is that, well, okay, pretty pictures are lovely, lead scoring is great, that's fine, but what impact did the marketing team have on raising AUM? What impact did they have? And this is the report that allows you to do that. It gives you the ability to see month on month how many new prospects were generated through marketing, how many of those were active, how many were reached out to, and how many new opportunities were created. This, my friends, is the language that the people who hold your budget understand. And all what I've spoken about today, by creating great content, has actually led to this. Now, I know 3 people have dropped off this call because I'm watching that, and they've missed this part, but this is the gold. Getting to this point is incredibly, incredibly useful. Well, you say useful, that's the wrong word. It's everything. And then being able to drill down into this and know who those people are absolutely moves the needle in your marketing. Because then you're not seen as a marketer doing pretty pictures and pretty copy. You're seen as being core to the business. Obviously, you want to know what things are working in your themes. So that's a useful report and a useful analytic to have. And the ability to run nurture campaigns is incredibly useful as well. But what really it kind of comes down to is the ability for all your copy, all the discipline, all the hard work that you've put together in that original slide, in that original spreadsheet, to actually get to the point where you can actually quantify in assets raised what a marketing team is doing. And when I kind of cheekily said great content earlier on, it's not the greatness, it's great only when it raises AUM. So that's me done for today. Thank you all very much for joining. If you want to, when the present replay goes out, there's a button you can click. If you want to get an hour of my time to dig into any of these topics in more depth, I'd absolutely love to spend that time with you. So thank you all very much. And if there's any questions, now's the time. Sandler, go ahead. Do you want to put something in the chat if you've got a question? Or do you want to talk? I can give you both options. Right, you can talk if you're on, if you want to talk.
Yeah, what software can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Oh, sorry, you know what? I can't hear you. I think it'd be easy if you type it out there. How do you retarget emails? Yeah, that's really interesting. Well, you retarget emails through the ability of actually knowing what people have done with that email. So the ability to know, did they open the email? Did they read the email? Did they forward the email? What links did they click on that? That's all collated. And then from that, you can start building out, Sander, the automations to say, okay, well, if somebody had clicked on a particular link regarding our ESG fund, okay, well, that's great. I can retarget them with some more content we have through the nurture campaign over the next 4 to 5 months. Is really useful where people don't engage in the way you want them to. So a classic example is a webinar. If people have not registered for the webinar, but have gone to the registration page, or have gone to, they haven't gone to the registration page, or they haven't gone to, they haven't even clicked on the link, as I said in my automation, you can build that functionality out and remail them, say, after a week or 2 weeks. That's all down to automation. Is there software you recommend for that? Well, it depends what industry you're in. If you're in the fund space and you only want to do email retargeting, I mean, our product does it. Other products out there that will do retargeting that are not domain specific, well, it's MailChimp all the way to Marketo. It just depends on your budget. Okay, so Rick Lake has come up and asked, discuss how marketing performance measurement can specifically track flows and direct. Great question. So obviously there is a disconnect. There are 3 disconnects when you're marketing in funds, right? One is all the good work you do, Rick, as a marketer. The second is all the good work the sales team does. And thirdly, the open goal that the onboarding team have to go through. And those 3 things are generally disconnected. So that is why when you've got everything connected into your website and then connected into the CRM, you can then map out the investor journey, the journey of that contact. And you can see them go from prospect to, I don't know how you do in your companies, but let's just simply say prospect, suspect, investor, so on and so forth. And at the point of being an investor, nobody actually goes and clicks where it says investor. What they do is they just look at the amount invested in the accounting package and then maybe or may not bring that in. And that becomes a process thing. You've got to build those processes in to do that. Now, we've been really fortunate that some of our clients have actually asked that question and we've been able to build that out. And some of that is purely down to connecting into the accounts package that they're using, the accounts backend or their service provider. So when an inflow comes in, we automatically flag that in our system and immediately, you know, they've become an investor. The question then becomes, the deeper question is, what piece of content was the trigger point that made them make that investment? It's impossible to work that out. And the reason is, and I'll say it's impossible, it's really hard. And I'll be very surprised if somebody could tell you that. And the reason why it doesn't work in the fund marketing space is because unlike the retail world, where you've got tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people on a customer journey making buying decisions, an investment decision is that much different. We don't actually have enough data points. Now, we've got 200 users. We don't have enough, and you know, we've been going 20 years. We don't have enough data points to make a sensible prediction. And it's one of those things, is buying an investment is a multivariable problem, is there's lots of things going in to make that decision. So one thing is not going to be the one that makes them do it. And if you go back to my question on, you know, the psychology of buying, who knows why people buy things and why they don't. And again, it's not just about the interaction they've made to make the investment. It's about the brand. It's about your messaging. It's about your voice. It's about being genuine, authentic in your communication. Something that I actually picked up from Stacey Haven. So that's kind of my answer to that. But that's how you would do it: is connecting your accounting system or the back end systems into your CRM, and then you work out on the the whole journey, customer journey. You'll be able to see those inflection points. So I hope that helped, Rick. Super. So I'm just seeing, what does your MarTech stack look like? Anonymous. Dum, dum, dum. Right, Anonymous. So our MarTech stack predominantly is our own product. So we eat our own dog food. So our MarTech is basically ProFundcom, which is sitting behind us. Our email platform is ours. Our web platform is ours. The CRM we use Pipedrive as our CRM. And that's pretty much it. And for our, and for our social posting, we use Hootsuite just to schedule our postings as they go out. And we use a product called LinkedIn Helper to do our direct messaging. So that would be it. What may be useful is if you can email me. In fact, I won't do that because you want to be anonymous. What I'll do is I will put another slide in here before I send them out again, detailing you guys what our MarTech stack is. Okay, I hope that helped you, Anonymous. Right, I've just got another question that's come by. Why Pipedrive? How did you choose the CRM behind your amazing solution? David, you're too kind. The reason probably the better question is the reason we didn't go with Salesforce or Microsoft Dynamics or any other product, because we found to configure them in a way that would make sense to us, to give us that investor-centric view, would take too much time, too much effort, and we're having to bolt on too many bits. So, and obviously every time, you know, you buy those products, you're buying the Lego to put it all together. And Pipedrive just came with all the bits that we needed in one place. And and we could just, using our own connectors, you know, we connect to Salesforce, we connect to Dynamics, Backstop, CapTech, Investor Dynamo, all the kind of investor management CRMs. It just so happened that Pipedrive kind of did everything we needed it to do. And you know, yeah, that was it really. And economies, yeah, as with anything, the more you use it, the more bits you buy. It's not a cheap thing. It just turns out to be what it is, but it's great. Oh yeah, so, okay, you got it, David. Why not Salesforce? Why not Dynamics? And you know, it's one of those things, right, is that nobody gets fired for buying IBM and nobody gets fired for buying Salesforce, because everybody does it. And as I said earlier on in my preamble to this, if you do what everybody else does, you end up where they end up. And we as a business, and I'm sure you as a fund, don't want to end up where everybody else ends up. Yes, there's a risk to doing some things on a contrarian basis, but if you kind of look at all the contrarian funds right now, they're going gangbusters. So there you go. And look, we've lived through with 200, you know, people who use our product. We've gone through the pains of unsuccessful big CRM implementations. We know the pain. We know that you know, there's no such thing as a successful CRM deployment, or it's very rare. And you know, without kind of going into it too much, I'm not going to go into it. So there you go. Right. So let's see if is there anybody else? We've got any more questions, guys. There's still 40 of you on here. And you've got me for another 5 minutes. And then my afternoon is free unless somebody has put something in my diary. Is that it? Are we all done? Are there just 39 people who have just fallen asleep on me? Don't do that, guys. 38. Okay, they're dropping off now. Okay, well, listen, it sounds like there's no more questions. Once again, everybody who's been on the call, thank you for being so generous with your time. And we've got one question. What is the most destructive action you can do? Wow, that's a deep question. The most destructive value defeater is to not tell the truth. That, Robert, would be my number one thing. And that is when as a marketing team, you're being disingenuous about what you're putting out. If it doesn't feel right and you're doing it, get out. That's not, so yeah, from a purely a marketing point of view, maybe even a life point of view, if it ain't right, don't do it. I think the second most destructive thing is buying the wrong product, because when you're buying software, the only professional in the room is their salesperson. Marketing teams would love to think they know how to buy software. As somebody who's my business is to sell software, I can assure you they have no idea how they're being manipulated to buy the wrong product. And not only are they buying the wrong product, they are having to buy a whole bunch of services to get it to kind of do what half that was promised in the demo. So that's probably the second most destructive thing I've seen. I think the third most destructive thing I've seen is the competency curve, where when you've got a little bit of knowledge, you think you know everything. And as time goes on, you realize how little you know, and you're not learning as you move on. And I think that's pretty much what I kind of said earlier on is, you know, my motivation to doing what I do and not retiring is because I'm always learning. And there's a famous quote by Rabindranath Tagore, which says, just like one candle cannot light another candle if it's not a light itself, in the same way, a teacher cannot teach anybody unless they're learning themselves. So there you go, Robert. So I hope that was helpful. Don't lie, don't buy wrong products, always keep learning. In fact, maybe I'll put that, in my book actually, Robert, and I won't copyright you. No, I will, Robert. So thank you for that. I hope that helped. Okay, Robert, I think you just snuck in there with the last question. Like I said, if anybody wants to ask any more questions, feel free to email me, reply to the replay, or book yourself a session, an hour session with me if you can handle it. Thank you all very much.